with putting together this talk over the past week. Because I know that each person here has been affected. Can we have the screen down, please? Has been affected by the fires. I know that some more than others. And yet, I also know that words cannot often convey what needs to be heard. In fact, there is nothing I can really say today that will take away all your pain. But if I can offer one comforting word or one inspirational thought, then it would have been worth it. I lived in Paradise throughout my teenage years. I graduated from Paradise High. I went hiking in the canyons, and I ran across the covered bridge. I'd swim in the cool waters beneath it. I loved the Johnny Appleseed Day parade and hanging out in Billy Park. And my heart also first led me to the Paradise Religious Science Church back then, where I got up and read a poem, even though I was so terrified at 14. I remember the walls distinctly. And recently, it feels like our world has been shattered and turned upside down in this upheaval. Like maybe even spirit has abandoned us. And you might even be thinking, well, Reverend Lisa, how can you have a talk title called Awaken to Your Blessed Life when it feels like you're awakening to a cursed life? Well, in my defense, I had to come up with this talk title a month ago, and everything was fine a month ago. Just needed to get that out in the open. Put that down. So, I also had to think about it more deeply, as we're trained to do in this teaching. And when I have gone through some of the darkest moments in my life, I know that I felt it would be easier just to turn away from the teaching, turn away from spiritual truths, because it felt too difficult. But then, I ultimately believe that we can't ignore gravity. There are basic laws in this teaching that are always there, whether we want to recognize them or not. I also firmly believe in a quote that our founder, Ernest Holmes, wrote. He states, "We have within us a power which is greater than anything we shall ever contact. A power that can overcome any obstacle in our experience." End of quote. I find great comfort in this knowing. By recognizing this basic principle, we receive a tool and a confirmation that we will get through this. So awakening is defined as the revival or interest of attention, a recognition, realization, or coming into awareness of something. Right now, recognizing or awakening is also recognizing how we're feeling in this present moment and allowing ourselves to be and express whatever we need to express from where we are, to allow our hearts to break open and be vulnerable to life. So I'd like everybody just to take a deep breath in for a moment and recognize and allow where you are in this present moment without any judgment. Just allow. It's also an awakening to the realization that we are not alone, that there is a consciousness that is always conspiring for our best and highest good, even though we might not initially see it. It's kind of like if you look up closely at something, or perhaps too soon, it can seem blurry and fuzzy and confusing. It makes no sense whatsoever. If you step back, however, even allowing some time, you can see a clearer image, a greater picture on what you're looking for. In the Science of Mind magazine this past month, Arthur Johnson wrote, "Faith sees the invisible, believes the incredible, and receives the impossible." On November 8th, that morning, I called my 81-year-old stepmother who lives off Pearson Road in Paradise. I'd been busy teaching all day, so I didn't realize how severe the fires were, and it wasn't until 10 a.m. that I called her on her landline and she picked up. I was horrified, and I just said, "Erica, get out now." And I told her I loved her. I didn't hear anything from her for the next 5 hours. And in that time, she had managed to round up her 3 cats, a chicken, and a frantic neighbor, drive them through walls of fire on both sides, and get them safely to Chico. Seeing the invisible, believing the incredible, and receiving the impossible. So how do we awaken to blessings when life doesn't make sense? When life appears to be blurry and mixed up, and sometimes we just want to scream out or cry? Perhaps it's going back to our core, going back to our incarnation when we first came to this planet. Just the mere fact that we are human, such a blessing. I've shared this before, but I think it's worth repeating now. The Buddhists have a story where they talk about how rare it is to be human. So imagine, if you will, that there is water covering the entire planet. And on the surface, there's a lifesaver ring that's floating about, going east and north and south and east and west by the currents. Now imagine that there's a blind sea turtle at the bottom of the ocean, and it rises up once every 10,000 years for air. The odds of it fitting its head right through the center of the ring, that rarity is how rare it is to take on human form. So for a moment, just pick up your hand. Look at your incredible fingertips that are all so unique with their prints. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, and just notice that you have this ability with your mind, your mental impulses, that transfer information so quickly to your appendages, that we have the ability to perceive and create like no other life form that we know of. We are all formed to be incredibly unique, down to the very core of our existence. And we have the ability to move our bodies, use our thoughts, and to become self-aware. There are many life forms that never reach this state of awareness that we have, although I think dogs and dolphins are the exception. Now, this means that we get to experience all the tangibles in life, all the textures in life, the wonderful, the scary, the difficult, and the beautiful. And so, in trying to make sense of this whole blessed talk title, I've decided to turn the word blessed into an acronym. So let's take a look at the first thing. B is for beautiful. I took this picture in Cedar Grove in Bidwell Park just a day before the fires. And I was touched about how the light continued to shine through despite the dark trees blocking it. Nature is my go-to when I need that shot in the arm, that inspiration. And next, John Muir says, "In every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks. I also loved how the vines reminded me that life goes on. There's a vibrancy and vitality, and we still have Bidwell Park. The way the leaves change and teach us to let go. In fact, I saw this little sprig of, or I heard this story from my niece about a tree that had a little sprig of green on it, and they thought it had died, but they kept it because of that sprig of green, and they waited. And it came back in its full life form, not caught up in the conditions. It moved beyond the appearance of death. And so as I see these leaves that let go every autumn, and then they come back in a new vital form than ever before. So now I'd like to do a little process with you. So please take a deep breath in and allow your eyes to close. And I want you to think about one thing that you still consider beautiful in your life. Maybe it's a natural place in nature. Maybe it's the smile of a loved one. Allow it to come back into focus as you hold it in your mind's eye when you're challenged by other conditions. And now I invite you to open your eyes, focus back up here. As we move on, L in blessed is for love. Now, this is also a powerful thing that we've received this past week. I want you to think of all the experiences that you saw that showed you love. Maybe all the gifts that you received that were loving, or the gifts you gave that were loving to others. And I know there are so many examples of this. Love is not only something you feel, it is something you do. So I'd just like to take one or two little examples of how people have noticed love in the past week. Anybody want to share one experience? Yes. There are so many of those stories that I've heard. We've taken in families where I live, and also any other little cases, not little because these are huge, yes. Wow. Oh, how sweet. Yes, thank you for sharing. So for those to pick it up on the video, the Peck family took in this woman from the Walmart parking lot and took in her 4 dogs, and also other people who've had people take them into their homes. And I know that our center has provided many avenues of sharing either acupuncture or food or company as this time goes on. So there are so many examples of people reaching out and being that loving presence. Yes. Well, I also want to acknowledge there are so many people. If anybody else has taken in people, please stand up as well. Give yourselves a hand. Look around. All these people, too, have taken people in, and that's what makes us community. That is what makes us this loving center. So thank you all for what you've done. Now on to E. E is for energy. Where do you get your energy? Where do you spend your energy? The first law of thermodynamics states that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just changes form. So we can do lots of little experiments with our body to feel that energy, to feel that we put it out to the universe. because we're sharing this energy. Maybe try that with a loved one who needs it. Nikola Tesla said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. We are energetic beings, vibrating all the time at the core of our presence. So our thoughts are also energy. Our thoughts attract to us on the same frequency that they're vibrating. This is how manifestations happen, how our thoughts become things at the very essence. So what we give our attention to and focus on, we feed. We allow it to thrive. Now, sometimes we renew our energy being with others. We need that community and that connection. I know for extroverts, we get our energy from being around others, and we thrive. Now, I also know that there are people who prefer to be on their own. The introverts, I've heard of them. Don't quite know what that's like, but I know they exist. So you also need to take care of yourself during this time of crisis and go forth, whether it's being with people or on your own, to nurture that well-being inside, nurture that presence, to restore your energy. The first S is for spiritual. Do you believe that there's a heaven up there? Are you waiting for a direct stairway to heaven to show you the right path? Do you believe you have to go through other people to become spiritual? Well, I invite you to entertain the idea that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Sometimes we confuse that and turn it around. We sometimes feel that there is out there, but there is only here. There is no separation. And as Eckhart Tolle points out, you are not in the universe, you are the universe. So we have direct access to this powerful, loving energy. It's always available, and through our spiritual practices, we can recognize that it is in, as, and through us. It breathes us. And in the busyness of the world, we need time to slow down and to think, to allow the space between our thoughts. Since the fires, I feel that many people have almost had their minds on steroids with the bombardment of information and images, and maybe having your eyes glued to the TV 24 hours a day. No, we need to slow down. Go within. Almost realigning. As we can't be open to what our source is saying when we're taking in so many other sources. We have been given the opportunity to listen to our own inner being, and that's where Spirit speaks through us. Only then can we receive the guidance for the next right step. Maybe it's something you do first thing in the morning or late at night. But I invite you just to take a deep breath in again right now and let your eyes close. I want you to listen for a moment to the silence, the brief space between our last thought and the next one. And now please focus back up here as we move on to the next S, simplicity. I just really resonated with this one this week. Having to evacuate quickly, many people didn't really think when they were grabbing things to take with them. I know I grabbed a few papers and my grandmother's ring, but in that moment, so many people realized what was truly important to them, what they treasured the most. It wasn't so much all the stuff. Simplicity is the essence of happiness. Cedric Bledsoe. Sometimes we accumulate things because we think that'll make us happy. That's why we get the stuff. I'll be happy if. But how about I'll be happy when? And now, knowing that we can also be free. In fact, I've talked to many people in the past week who feel that they've been freed up, almost liberated by not having the clutter of all the things that they've accumulated over 20, 30 years. I know my own stepmother told me just recently that while she misses the photos and the family heirlooms, she feels a new sense of simplicity and freedom from that, though she's lost everything. So, once again, just breathe in and take in, as you let your eyes close, what are some important things to you? What are simple things that you treasure? When you get a sense of that, open your eyes again. Anybody want to share something that maybe has changed, that now you treasure more than ever before? Yes. Little granddaughters, yes. Okay. Oh, a little granddaughter learning to speak. Beautiful. Who else? Yes, Spring. And she remembered your birthday. How sweet. So Spring, oh, Spring's sister who has Alzheimer's called her on her birthday and remembered her name. That is such a gift. Nothing that you could package up, but that you can experience. Okay, as we move on in my acronym here, E is for expectancy. Are you expecting things to continue to be dry and desolate? Or are you expecting them to thrive and evolve in a new state? You have a choice in what you continue to nurture in your mind's eye. I choose to nurture what I love and what I want to see more of. Life, it tends to respond to our outlook, to shape itself to meet our expectations. Just think about where your expectations are right now. Are they going downhill? Or are you allowing them to rise up again? You were born with the expectation that someday you would fly, even though it seems scary, and to take that next leap of faith into the unknown. The courage in that bird's eye. He thinks he's going down, but he's been programmed to soar. So despite whatever fearful place that you're in right now, know that you inherently have these metaphorical wings that will take you where you need to be. The D is for dream. Are you allowing yourself to dream? To begin again? What are you filling up your mind with and visualizing? Visualize what you can see for the best. Maybe play that imagine if game. I don't know if you've ever played it, but as a child would say, imagine if, and spirit knows no difference between gigantic and small. You place the limitations by your thoughts about it. So dream big. Because Eleanor Roosevelt says, the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. You've got to keep those alive and allow those to once again fill you with that hope. And as dreams, they become the seeds in this fertile soil of our mind. Last Sunday night, I created something in a quick state as we were trying to put on this healing service, and I called it the Phoenix Tree. And I cut out various leaves, and I invited people to write one word of inspiration or one attribute of God that they could look at and project their expectations on. We have a few leaves left, and so after the service in Loftus Hall, if you want to add more leaves, there's more available for you. Just whatever you want to visualize, what attribute you want to have grow. We will grow again and recreate in new forms. And so as you go out into the week, remember that we are blessed from the core of our being. We get to decide how the campfire will define us. I don't know what will happen in the future, but I do know that our life is eternal and goes on despite conditions to the contrary. We are spiritual beings living through a changing, transformational time. We are Butte County strong, awakening to our divinity. Namaste. And now,